it will be getting more and more problematic, I think, to use somebody's picture without permission, right? If you will hold this print of your own photograph, there's some kind of magic happening then. Believe it, try it once, you will know what I'm talking about. You enter a different next level of your photographic journey.
Hello, fellow photographers. In this episode, I'm talking with Tomasz Trzebiatowski, and we are talking about what it takes to start a photography magazine, what are the steps to do it, what is the hardest part, and much more. My name is Martin, and this is podcast about photography. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Make sure you're subscribed if you want to be notified when I post a new episode. If you like this content and you think other people might like it as well, feel free to take a screenshot and throw it on your Instagram story or share it with your friends. You can find all the information in the description. Now, without any further ado, let's talk about photography. My guest today is a photographer, independent publisher, and editor-in-chief of Frames Magazine, Tomasz Trzebiatowski. Hello, Tomasz. How are you doing today? Thank you for joining me.
Yeah. Hello, Martin. Hello, everyone who's watching now live or maybe at some point later after we have recorded it. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This is, this is exciting. This is YouTube Live. I think I've done it once until now, and technology seems to be working, and I'm very happy to be here, talk to you about photography, and I guess mine and yours passion, right? It's this is something we share, I guess. So yeah, thanks once more for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Before we talk about the main topic, which is the magazine itself, let me ask you, how did you start with photography?
Famous question, right? Big question. Everybody has to answer. Let me try. Yeah. So, how did I start? Let's really rewind, back to when I was a little boy. I think it was the first moments when I learned and realized that there is something called photography. It was my father, who was a little bit into it. So he was, an amateur photographer, but he till today actually is really into it, really enjoying exploring different, photographic subjects. He loves books. So, I would say 10% of his, bookshelves is photography books. So there was those initial impulses, coming mainly from my father. My mother was also a little bit, but mainly him. I was born in 75, so you can do your math, calculate everything. By the time I was 10, it was, 1985. So needless to say, analog cameras, films. I was born and grew up in Poland. Many Russian cameras, coming from Russia. But, some of them really great devices. And I think it was those first moments when I kind of probably something was planted, somewhere in me. Because then for many years, for I would say another at least 10 or 12 years, I didn't practice it myself, So I knew it was there, but it was then until I was, I would say, 25 or maybe even 28 when this fascination came back. But then when it came back, it really hit me hard, and it doesn't let go until today. So, I don't know if I can go forever. You were probably asking about the very beginnings, right?
So, you said at the beginning, you got it from your parents, right? And being a parent myself, and I know you are
Same
also,
here,
you have, children. I was wondering, how do you approach, because I guess you also take a lot of photographs of your family. Do you have any tips you would like to share with us, how you approach your photography, for example, with your children?
So you're asking about educating them or making them interested, or my photography of them?
Either if you plan to do something like your parents did, bringing you to photography, but also if someone might be interested in capturing the special moments of their families. How do you approach that? If you do a lot of photographs, people nowadays with phones, you have thousands and thousands of pictures, from different angles, or if you try to approach it maybe more artfully?
Okay, so basically you asked two questions, right, in one kind of. So let's I will take care of try to take care of the first part first. Getting my own children interested in photography. I think I don't have any particular plan. I don't have any kind of agenda. I will do this. Send them to the photography course, then do this and this. Do with them this and that. I think I am basically doing what my parents did with me. So they already see, and my daughter, the elder one is 6, the small one is too small to realize it. But she's 2.5. But she's already, in Polish it's called aparat, the camera. So she's already recognizing these devices, even it's the small one. But I think I believe in something like a genuine, instinctive, almost kind of contagious, way of spreading and sharing this passion. I think they see already. They see the photographs. They see me running around with a camera.
It's not like something new when.
It's not like
even
something
when
new.
I was young, the cameras were not that accessible.
Exactly. And as you mentioned, right, the phones anyway, I use for my personal photography at the moment, I'm using a lot of, a lot of time, the Fujifilm cameras, right? But of course, I also have the phone with me, at all times. And sometimes I also grab a picture with this. So I think like today, the children, they see it. They then see the results. I sometimes show them the photos, the prints. I show them some books. Needless to say, I'm looking a lot of photographs when working on the editorial, part of the magazine. So it's funny, but my older daughter, she is already quote unquote helping me with the selections. Oh, I like this picture, is good. So if they will inherit this passion, it's great. I would be happy. If they don't, it's also fine. I am also a musician. I'm actually educated musician. I'm an educated classical pianist.
Oh, really?
Still working at the College of Music. Also, we call it here 40% or 30% job.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, but the same happened with me with the piano. My mother used to play the piano. I am happy today, to know that my parents didn't force it on me. Yeah. They showed me what it is. They enjoyed it, and I happened to to catch it up, and do it myself. So I think that's the way. Show your kids you are enjoying it. Give them the camera sometimes in their hands. If they take it, if they like it, it's great. If they don't, I would say don't push it. It will anyway not work in the long run.
So show them
that's the way.
What you are passionate about, and leave it up to them if they want to pick it up or not.
Exactly. And now the other part of this, equation, photographing children. Yeah. Yeah, sure. I do it a lot. Sometimes I have phases I don't do it enough, and then I regret. Then I come back to it because job life gets into place, and day by day passing, and I didn't capture this moment. I should have taken the camera to this event. And so sometimes it of course happens. Sometimes it's longer phases when I regret, and then I wanna catch up. But of course I can't catch up with the events that already passed. But and like you mentioned, I think in my case, there is something about a artsy approach. Of course I am snapping the images, the photographs of my kids. But I definitely apply many of my artistic, ideas. I love black and white. I love, let's say, blurry pictures. I love it. Doesn't have to be tack sharp, and so on and so forth. I'm experimenting with angles, breaking the rules, and definitely you can see it in the pictures of my own kids, which are not simply, straight on snapshots. But I am definitely putting some more effort, some more thought. Even I think I can't just snap. There is always some ongoing background thought that, even subconsciously telling me, try something else, try to make a special image, Yeah. So that's me. But I know, everybody has different approach, and That's the beauty, right, about photography, that everyone does it in a different way.
I was just thinking about it because I have recently reviewed a book from Christopher Anderson. Not sure if you know about it. It's called Pia, and he also did other one about his son Atlas. And basically, it's a book about his children, captured very like artfully, not like a book for children, but rather like a artful approach of that. And it actually never occurred to me to think about like personal family photographs that they could become like a photography book that you could actually sell to public. Something that I would think might be a little too personal. But then I saw it, and then when we see what people are actually, able to share on the Instagram every day, maybe this, can be in the future. It can be done in the future. Also, with the kids, I wanted to ask you, do you have any special trick to find a time to do like your own photography? Because I know, from my own experience that it's not just as easy as it used to be to just take a camera and go out for 5 hours shooting. And so if you have maybe something I can learn something from.
I mean, when it comes to, photographing children, and we know it today, it is a certain issue, certain topic, everybody approaches their privacy issues and so on. I think everyone has to, who's interested, or feels this urge to photograph his, or her own children. Also, of course, like you say, but this is something, of course, very, what's the word? Very, intuitive or very, very personal. You just feel it. Do I feel fine with, showing the pictures of my children on social media? This is one thing. Would I feel fine? Would I feel fine about producing a book and selling it to the public or not? This is, of course, extremely personal. For somebody, no problem. For somebody, a no-go.
Intimate.
Intimate. If you are in a relationship, I mean, a marriage or whatever it might be, with your own children, this is also a very important aspect. I think, of course, your partner or your wife or your husband, I think, should be in line. So it has to be discussed with your partner, right? And so very individual decision. And when I look at and see pictures, and I see even in frames community, some people share pictures of their kids, beautiful shots. For me, if this person decided to present, to show this picture, I mean, I assume, of course, there are some worst possible scenarios, but I exclude them from my head. But I assume everything is fine. Nobody has anything against it. There is one, of course, issue if a child is under, I don't know, 15, 16.
Okay.
The question is if the child is fine with it, if the child even knows about it, right? But this is really for a separate discussion. What happens later in life when my daughter will discover or know, oh, you published this photo when I was 2 without me. No, maybe she will jump on me, and maybe I will have some hard discussions, but maybe not. So this is a very extremely personal decision, I would say.
I think also because of the internet, because when we look at, let's say, the old masters like Henri Cartier-Bresson or someone like that, they have a lot of famous pictures of children on the street, which today might be considered, a lot of people have like different opinions. Of course, people from street photography community see it like, it's fine, don't be angry about it. But I personally don't know if when I'm outside with my daughter and someone comes, a stranger, and out of nowhere he takes a picture of her. So I don't know what he's doing, what's he gonna do with what's the photographer going to do with the photograph, if it is going to be posted somewhere, or what might happen. And I kind of feel on one side it limits, it's like this privacy issue, and on the other side it also limits the art itself, because it's something it was possible before, and now it's being looked up like badly, or
Yeah, that's the curse of the times, of the society.
Yeah.
We are living in our own vicious circle.
Yeah.
And like you say, I think it's also, when I gave it a thought right now, I think it's mainly because of how the media changed, right? So, and mainly because of the internet. So there are so many things and ways, right? We know it, in which this photo could be possibly used, misused, and so on. Henri Cartier-Bresson, first of all, he came up with a camera somewhere on the street. Maybe 70% of people back then didn't know what he was doing at all. Maybe, look at the popularity of photography then.
People weren't used to cameras back then.
Right. They didn't even maybe notice what he did. This is the first thing. Second thing, okay, he published a book. Okay, back then, I don't know how many copies he today, of course, his photos are reproduced, but today, those children, some of them actually still alive, right? Those people who were children back then. So I don't know how it works, but probably in terms of law, this is not a problem. Otherwise, they would not be able to republish those photos, right? But back then he published a book. Maybe 2,000, maybe 10,000 people back then had this book on their bookshelves, and that's it. Internet, multiplying everything. One photo can be seen by millions tomorrow, right? If it lands in a bad place.
And is it even possible from your experience, from publisher standpoint, to actually publish a street photography book nowadays? Because, it's impossible to get signed permission from, you have a lot of street photographs. Maybe I would like to publish something in the future, and it's impossible to even find the people to ask for consent. Or is it more like to, let's say, ask rather for forgiveness than for permission to publish it, and then try to solve if there is a problem, coming from you publish someone?
Yeah, so the thing is, of course, here we are applying, there are different laws, slightly different laws, depending on the country. I think what counts is, so the law which gets applied to what you do with your book and what is presented in this book. It's the law which is the law of the country where the book is actually published. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert on those things. Okay. Here I'm not an expert. As a publisher, what I know of the magazine, for example, when a photographer submits a portfolio of photographs with recognizable people, clear portraits, especially children and so on, the first thing I do is have a phone call with him or with her. Discuss this straight up. Is everything okay and fine here? I need his or her statement confirming that everything about the rights to those published photographs is settled. There is no problem. In case of any problem,
okay,
it's the photographer who is responsible for any discussion, solving any possible legal problems. What's interesting about street photography is, and it also varies slightly depending on the country, but more or less, today's stand, May 22nd, 2021, is that street photography is also considered art. And if it's an artsy book, if it's an art photography book, you are actually, you should not have any problems with publishing such book. Let's say with photographs of Prague in Czech Republic, there are recognizable people.
Yeah.
Some of them children, but they are in public. They are on public ground. Once you enter somebody's home, obviously you would also ask for this permission. Is it okay we share those photos in the book, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's not so bad or not so, limiting and scary as we think. But of course, talking about it all the time on the internet makes us very much aware and very much, afraid sometimes.
Do you think?
But go ahead.
Do you think street photography is in danger because of the new laws like GDPR here in the EU, or is it going to be more like tighten up, to get like into the space where it's not like legally possible to take pictures of strangers on the street, or do you think it will stay like this for
my feeling is it will naturally, or maybe it is already happening, it will naturally split into art publications, Frames magazine, whatever photography, coffee table book, or what, so it's kind of intuitively we know this is an art publication and news publication. If it's a news publication, journalistic, based on discussing issues, political issues, social issues, it will be getting more and more problematic, I think, to use somebody's picture without permission, right? But I have the feeling when it comes to art photography, art publications, it will be actually, I think we are in kind of like a bubble right now, and it will kind of actually get easier. I have the feeling.
Yeah. Okay.
Who doesn't enjoy beautiful street photos? Come on. Nothing nasty, nothing mean, just beautiful street photograph. Who doesn't enjoy it? If I would see my daughter in on Michael Kenna's photograph from Paris, I wouldn't have a problem with this. I would have zero problem with this, I think, really.
Yeah, I mean, but different people, different opinions, right?
Exactly. Again, very personal, but I think in general we will be fine, and street photographers will be just fine, I think.
Okay, so talking about publications, when does a photographer realize he or she wants to produce his own photography magazine? How did you come up to the conclusion you are going to start your own photography magazine?
It's a great question, a really good question, because it's about the, long process of growth, of development, changes as a photographer, and then, still as a photographer. I'm a publisher today, but deep down in my heart, in my soul, I'm a photographer, and this is my passion. And a very good question. Really, this is really interesting. And I, as usual, intuitively, what comes up to my mind, and when I think about myself, of course, is we go through those phases, learning phase. Like we talked before, we discover photography. There is something sparks our interest. It's really starts getting fascinated. So we start photographing, right? Then comes the phase of looking for your own style and language, right?
Yeah.
Look at his photos, amazing. He has been doing for 20 years. What is mine? What do I want to do?
Do you actually prefer a specific genre?
No. I think not. I think not. This is for almost another podcast, of course. But sure, I was going through many phases like this. I've been photographing now for 20 years for sure, right?
Okay.
So I've been going through all those phases of doubt, of searching, of giving up, of taking it again, of forcing myself to do another genre from tomorrow, all of those stuff. In the end today, I have certain preferences maybe, I'm also a musician, so I love photographing music, catching music on pictures is very interesting, of course, musicians, but also like abstract photographs. I love black and white. This is clearly some kind of preference in general, but whatever visual catches my attention, I react. And then I ask myself one day, if it catches my attention, it's me. It is me. If it caught my attention, why should I deny it? If it makes me take the camera and go after it and try to photograph it in the best way, it's me.
Yeah.
It would not catch you. Something else would catch your eye. It's you. So why limit yourself? And I think our eye, or our structure, emotional structure, in the end, your style, how people like to describe it, will be there anyway. It will be visible anyway, because it's a certain set or subset of visual triggers that you react to.
Yeah.
So if you photograph your children, or if you photograph a landscape or an abstract, if you keep doing it, I think, and you show to someone your portfolio of 20 years of work, it will be recognizable that it's, Martin's work. I think this is my belief. This is my belief. So
you were like during this kind of evolution, you realized that the photography magazine might be something you might be interested in creating, producing, curating, because you are the editor in chief.
So exactly. So then I reached this, I don't know if it's a final phase, I hope not, but but the current phase where I always loved looking at people's work, for inspiration, for inspirational reasons, but simply just I really enjoy it, right? So I simply really enjoy it, and I enjoy looking at I always enjoyed looking at different kinds of work. And I have this part, in me, which is I'm rather a reserved person. I used to be extremely shy, when I was a small boy, like very reserved.
Okay.
But then in this regard, actually, internet kind of opened me up, right? Because it helped first, getting in touch and talking to people, getting to know new people through the internet, where there is this certain distance first, where you don't have to look somebody in the eyes.
Yeah.
And what I started making many connections with other photographers, and looking at their work and sometimes being amazed by this work. I just felt one day, I would love to have a platform. I create photography, but you also create great photography. I would love to show your work as well. So thinking about in this way about many people, I just felt it's all about inspiring each other, supporting each other in this passion. And this I can't answer exactly. I have something in me that makes me then, okay, let's do it. Let's create the platform. Let's create the magazine,
Yeah, the truth is, sorry about that. The truth is that this just came to my mind, that nowadays it's much easier to do things like that than, let's say, 30 years ago, because who would say that we two could be talking, live and, recording this for, I would say, a budget, for small budget, and it wasn't possible. Back then you would have to be in a studio, have a big expensive cameras, and do something like that. So I guess, do you think it's also because the situation is more, let's say, easier for someone who maybe you can explain it to me on the example when I would, for example, decide to create my magazine, my photography magazine. What are the steps I would have to take to think about the content, think about the team, about getting pictures, getting writers, editors, publishers, printers, and so on?
You just listed all the steps, but I understand what you're asking. So I think, looking back, at the beginnings, when the idea of the Frames magazine, appeared in my head, it was not even called Frames yet. Yeah. So first I had the idea of the magazine. I would say today, absolutely crucial is this first phase where you give it a lot of time, really long, and that's what I did. Really a long, period of time when you specify and define the concept of the publication, because the publication can have really completely, different formats, different ideas. It can be focusing on a certain kind of photography, or maybe not. It, layout, and so I would say the first step is you have to absolutely nail your concept of your publication, and you have to as an editor, as a publisher, you have to really feel good with it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, right? Otherwise, you would, with every next edition, you would feel, this is not really what I want. This is really bad. And then how do you have to start making changes, and then it would stop working because it's not consistent from number one. So, for example, before Frame, before I, went to even look for printers, editors, writers, I think I spent like, for sure, 2 years. It was just the wheels, spinning in my head and writing things down and, defining the concept, the layout, everything possible, pre-visualizing this thing. So this is the first step. Once you have this, the rest is, I don't say it's easy, but there are many steps. Like you mentioned, you have to look for the place. Let's maybe, if it's okay, I show it. It's we are talking about frames.
You mean this one?
Exactly. Yeah. Till today, we printed 3 editions, right, of frames. Okay. It's a printed magazine. I don't know if you even mentioned it until today. So it's for all of you watching, it's a magazine on paper. If you know what it means, if you know what it is.
Because excellent photography belongs on paper, right? That's your motto.
That's the motto. No, we are in the digital age. Everything, or most of it, is in a digital form, which is great. Which helps us connect, like you mentioned, which help us look at wonderful work, connect with photographers, connect with publishers, with gallery curators. It makes so many things easy. It helps us with showing our own work, right? But somehow, for some reason, photography for ages has some kind of connection with paper, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Which got a bit forgotten, maybe in the last decade or two, especially young generations. I have many conversations with young people, much younger than me. And, when I show them the magazine on paper, they're like, wow, I would love to have my photos printed. They didn't even think about, I'm talking about people in their 20s.
Yeah.
Or teenagers, people in their 20s. They didn't, till the moment I talked to them, they didn't have and they are photographers. They didn't think about printing their one photo.
Do you think it's important for photographers to get like physical prints? Not like shooting, I don't know, I wouldn't go that far as to say that shooting film is essential. But do you think photographers should print their photos and, look at them? Is it something that can help you in the process of becoming better photographer?
Absolutely. I think you know the answer. Otherwise, I would not be producing this magazine. But let me try to explain why, because it's a very good question, of course. I would say today very often we produce big numbers of images, right? Because it's digital, because it doesn't cost us anything anymore. After you get the camera, you can shoot forever, and we save them on our hard drives, on our iPhones, on our mobiles, and everywhere. And this is such an amount of images that we kind of lose track of what we actually shot ourselves. Okay, with time, even if you stay with digital, maybe you reduce this amount of you learn, you learn about selection process, you learn about looking before shooting and so on. But still, digitally, we should match, right? Compared to what it was in the analog times. And like you say, it's not about switching necessarily now to suddenly to an analog camera and film camera to become a better photographer. This is not. But I think if you get your photography seriously, if you feel this is becoming something important for you, and you haven't done it till today, I would absolutely encourage you to do the following. Let's say you're coming back from your holidays or from a project which you are working on.
Okay.
You have, let's say 1,000 images, right? Then you start your selection. You want 50 images. You end up with those 50. And I know it's not like you can just make a book every day just like this. But what I would absolutely encourage you to do is, keep going with this selection, end up with your own personal 3 favorite images and print them.
Okay.
And print, I don't mean now like print, like go to first possible lab, around the corner, because they will look completely different and sometimes very bad. But look for a professional, experienced photo printer in your country, in your area. Give them the files and tell them, I want the best possible archival prints of those 2 images.
Okay.
Or 3 images. You wait, you let him or her, do the work. When you get those 2 images back on paper, right? On a some kind of, they will know what they are doing. Those people are still around, so it's good. Just have to find the right person.
Okay.
If you will hold this print of your own photograph on this wonderful, piece of paper, there's some kind of magic happening then. You start looking for a longer time at this image than you would just on a monitor, because there is more to it than just digital pixels. There is structure of the paper, there is feeling of your fingers, there is different way the paper reacts with the ink colors, So you take time. You take really more time. You cherish it, of course. You love it. You feel proud. You feel empowered, but also you learn, because you learn even more about improving your own photography because you look at the picture longer.
Would you frame it? Hang it on the wall?
I would definitely frame it. This is personal. Yes, I mean there is a limited space. I mean, I still have much space for. You see, my photos are, by the way, in the other room, so we would move the whole setup. I have not in this room, but I have, I would say 5 or 6 maybe photos framed, or there are so many different. This is also amazing about today's times. You can print photographs in so many different, very good ways. Mm-hmm. It can be on paper, of course. Archival paper, photographic paper, some kind of bamboo papers. That's the amazing stuff. You can print it on aluminum. You can print it on some kind of acrylic glass. There is so many different media you can use, which gives, of course, the image each time different character. But then by doing it, you find your personal favorite way of printing. Yeah. Long story short, we could talk forever. Long story short.
Print your photographs.
But so by printing, you believe it, try it once, you will know what I'm talking about. You enter a different next level of your photographic journey.
Perfect.
100%.
Thank you. Talking about the process of making the magazine, was there something that actually surprised you? That it was like more difficult than you thought it would be? Like you said, oh my God, I didn't think like getting, text or getting editors or getting, the design would be so hard, or print or shipping or something you didn't think you would need to deal with, but then you were like surprised it was unpleasantly difficult? Not much, but let me explain why. Because like I mentioned before, I did an enormous amount of research up front. Okay.
I talked to all possible, to 10 different printers, 10 different other editors, who already gave up on their magazines and to different people. And so I was aware of everything what can be difficulty, and I of course did my best to approach it this way that the problem or the difficulty will be solved. So I was not really surprised.
Okay.
But I can definitely. But I'm of course aware of a few places along this whole process of producing even each particular issue which are more difficult than the others. One interesting issue, I can mention just 2 things. Very tricky thing about printing photographs comes to life when it comes to black and white images.
Okay.
It can be a nightmare because we are getting a bit into the tech stuff, right? So you have the, like we know it from the computer, from the digital files, we have the file profiles.
Okay.
CMYK, grayscale.
And they look
RGB.
differently on different screens.
Yeah, screens. Our computers today, even the personal computers which we have at home, they are very clever, extremely clever. So they very often adjust everything on the flow that the image looks good.
Just a little note: I was editing my archive, and I did like 200 or maybe more images, and then I realized I have on my Mac turned off the True Tone. and when I turn it off, all the images were called because my True Tone balanced the color to the warm color. Yeah. So then I created a note that every time I turn on the Lightroom, it makes a pop-up image that says, make sure you turn off the True Tone and Night Shift or whatever you have on the screen, because it was a nightmare to edit everything.
Exactly. Right. So you see, like already on this scale at home, something can change. So I can tell you just a quick story. In the first edition, extremely happy we have. I mean, the edition is here. The work of Michael Kenna. Yeah. This is when I learned the big time. What does it mean, or how tricky it can be to print black and white imagery? And Michael knows what he is doing, right? Yeah. Or what he wants his images to look like. So trial and error, several times.
And were you in touch with him to show him, okay, this is how it looks like? And did he have a condition that he wants to see it before it's printed? Like he doesn't want his work to be interpreted in other way than what he thought?
Yes, definitely. So he has a very and most of serious or all of the serious photographers, not only black and white photographers, they are very aware and very careful about how the photographs will look in the publication. Now it's a very tricky thing because this is on paper, right?
Yeah.
We can't print entire magazine or even his feature 100 times before we actually print the magazine. But fortunately there's a technology which is called, I think it's a high-res PDF proofing, which is the final high resolution PDF file, very specific format of the final pages of the magazine, which you can send to the photographer. But of course, again, his monitor when has to be calibrated, has to be perfect. But usually professionals like Michael Kenna know what they are doing. But still, we had to have, I think, three attempts to get the tones right. So I would say, I know today when we are working just now on the 4th edition, and there's again a very serious black and white shooter which we will be printing. I am being very careful. I know this is the most tricky part, right? So this is on the publishing, on the printing side.
It's not only on the display, right? It's also the printer has to be calibrated.
Of course. And there are different printing processes, you have to know what kind of printing machines, we are printing it. This is we print frames on this is litho printing.
Okay.
This is, it's not a digital print. It's a real machine with real ink, with real rollers, it's a beautiful print. And of course you can see it here on the digital broadcast. So everything has to be compatible, and everybody has to know publisher, printer, layout designer.
And how does it work? Do you actually get samples? Because I can imagine those machines, they have to be set to print a set amount, but it might be troublesome to come and get 1,000 of copies with wrong color, right? So can you actually get a sample before it gets into print of thousands and thousands of copies?
You could. I could, but it would cost me. I mean, if they would produce one sample.
Oh yeah.
It would cost me more than I think printing 1,000 copies of the magazine.
Yeah. So it's not
great.
Reasonable.
So you can't. But exactly like I mentioned, there is this final high-res PDF proof technology, which what you see on a calibrated, perfect set. It's 99% of what you will see on the paper. Still, paper being, and we use a beautiful matte paper. Monitor computer screen is reflective, right? I mean, this is completely different medium, but you can get really close, yeah. So, and we are we're lucky enough. I also looked a lot, for really experienced printers. We are working with Taylor Brothers in Bristol, UK. So I knew already I am getting at the address where people know what they are doing. They have been doing for, I think, 120 years.
Okay.
I had a certain level of trust, in what they will tell me.
Talking about money, can you tell me like a rough estimate how much should I save to start my photography magazine? I just like, because it can probably vary from if there are services that let you publish your magazines, like the Mag magazine or some other like photography websites, then that they then distribute the magazine for you. But to be able to do everything from scratch, from printing to shipping to the door of your final customer, I would just need like a range, if it's like $1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000.
This is, we would have some at least, again, roughly specific numbers. I think it's my daughter trying to get in. So, that's life of the publisher at home, right? Yeah. Very difficult question to answer. It's not that I don't want to reveal any numbers, because you can depends on how many copies would you be planning to print.
Okay.
The cost of one printed copy of any book or any magazine changes significantly if I would print 100 of those or 5,000. Okay. It's a huge difference in price. But then, of course, if you print 5,000, it's 5,000 copies of a cheaper copy.
Oh, yeah.
But there is 5,000 of them.
Yeah.
So you have to start somewhere. You would have to know how many magazines, how many books or whatever it might be, amount of pages.
So do you think it might be a good idea, I don't know, if you took that road, to maybe do a crowdfunding to first realize how many potential customers you have, and then you actually print that amount of magazine or publications or something?
Absolutely. So what I did with Frames was not per se crowdfunding, but something very close to this, because what I did, I was, I have been into this publishing space, also digital publishing space already for a while. I was running still actually running another magazine, which is FUJILOVE magazine for Fujifilm users. So I had some experience with, running communities, connecting with people online. If you are thinking, I don't know, I have the feeling you are thinking about a magazine, Martin. We have to talk.
No, I was just trying to get into shoes of someone who is maybe in this space, and then they think, okay, so I am thinking about it. I'm thinking about self-publishing it, because approaching, not famous publishers, but approaching any publishers might be, if you are not a big name in the industry, might be difficult to say, hey, I have an idea. Do you want to publish me? So a lot of people, not only magazines, but also the zines, the monographs and such, they do self-publishing.
Absolutely. Self-publishing combined with crowdfunding, it's a very exciting process. It's not easy. It requires a lot of perseverance. I mean, you have to really believe in a project. It's not easy. I would suggest working on building a community first around your project. Maybe it's a community on a crowdfunding platform, maybe on social media. But it's definitely a way. I mean, this is the way I did it with Frames. In a way, I for 1.5 years, I was publishing the weekly photography newsletter, which is still running. It's called Frames Letter. It started always a Frames Letter, which is a newsletter, and sharing interesting photography content, inspiring people and making connections, making friends. And after 1.5 years, I had a community around this newsletter, which allowed me to ask those people, hey guys, I would love to create a really beautiful, nicest photography magazine.
And you actually run a podcast, Frames Photography Podcast, and I believe you started in March, but the first issue of the magazine was published in November, right? So was it something, the podcast, I mean, that pushed you to start the magazine, or was it the other way around? What you said a moment ago, that you use this to build the community to get people in your project.
This was all kind of interconnected. I mean, the podcast existed even earlier under a different name. It was called Photography Radio initially, and then it kind of evolved, changed a bit the format. And my idea of frames of the magazine started to crystallize. And then I really pre-visualized this entire frames photographic ecosystem, which it is becoming today very nicely, and we're really happy about it. So I can't say what was first.
Okay.
It was the, what's the saying, the egg or the chicken or what is it, right? So, but I felt more and more consciously that it's all becoming one thing. Today, Frames is a quarterly printed magazine,
okay,
monthly digital companions. We are almost next week. We are releasing the Frames photography app for mobile phones and tablets, which will be completely free. And we have also the social media part. So it became
like a
one
circle.
thing,
yeah,
which is now complementing each other. Content is being supported by audio here, by video here, by printed matter here.
Also,
it has been much work.
And also by our team, I guess. How difficult is to put together a team when you come up with this idea? Were those people all the people you knew, or was it like you started to, I don't want to say putting things online, we are looking for someone? What was it like to get the team together?
I never put a single, call on we are looking for someone in my life. I believe and this is a very special road, of course, if you as an individual have a project, idea, passion, and you manifest it, you show it, you share it, talk about it, and you, like I said, you undertake certain steps, you create things, podcast, newsletter, whatever it might be. Your YouTube channel is the best example.
Thank you.
I can imagine you started from 0 subscribers in the beginning.
Yeah, and my team consists of me and my turtle.
That's how it starts. That's what was Frames for 1.5 years. But what I really believe in, and this is exactly how Frames became a little team. Now there is 5 or 6 people already working around the magazine, on different parts of this whole thing. If you have this passion and you show this passion and share it, people will also come to you. People will want to do something with you. People will offer their help. Most of the people, 90% of the people who are writing today for Frames or working on the layout or working on the podcast, I didn't know them 2 years ago.
Okay.
I created a Facebook group, where again I was sharing some ideas, and you start talking like we now start talking. Who knows, Martin, what we are doing together in 20 years, right? Who knows?
And whose idea was the motto? The excellent photography belongs on paper. Was it yours?
Yeah, this was my motto, which one of the sleepless nights. I am this kind of person. I just spontaneous. I just believe in what I'm doing. I show this passion, and my wife would be the first one to confirm it, that there were certain sleepless nights, or I was gone for a week because I was preparing the graphics for the Frames podcast or whatever it might be, and then comes the other, and you also have family, so you know what it means. You learn also along the way to keep balance, right?
Yeah.
Private life, work, passion. Difficult to put everything under one roof.
You have to do it for many years, so there is no reason to burn out in 6 months, right?
Yeah, it's you learn along the way, many things.
Talking about people who might, start from the similar position to yours, being, fans of photography is like one thing. But How do you actually get such names as Steve McCurry or Michael Kenna to actually, be published in your magazine? How do you approach them? Is it actually like not that hard, or is it, difficult?
This people ask me quite often, like on different broadcasts or podcasts.
Okay.
Is that hard? This question comes up a lot. Like, was it hard? Was it difficult? To be completely honest, my answer would be no. Because, of course, I had to write Michael Kenna. Of course, I had to write an email to maybe Steve McCurry's assistant, which, I had to find somewhere first, write this email, explain what I am doing, explain what I would love to do, that I would love to publish his work. Is it difficult or is it not difficult? I don't know. you know what I mean?
You don't know until you try.
Exactly. So many people have brilliant ideas, in their heads. I'm convinced because I know it on a personal level. Brilliant ideas. Mm-hmm. You know what people are afraid of? People are afraid of sending this email.
Oh yeah.
Because they already think that Steve McCurry will not respond. But why? Maybe he will, and he did.
Okay.
And he never heard about me in his life before.
Yeah, that's
Is
true.
it difficult? I don't know.
Yeah, you're definitely right.
No, I have to say, photography community in general, and we know it. It's this, mostly amazing people,
Mm-hmm.
and this is people with passion. So, like us now. If we talk about it, if we exchange ideas, if we show the photos, we want to do things together also. It's, there is no place for this, jealousy and competition anymore, I think. If you start the magazine tomorrow, I'm the most happy for you. You know what I mean?
Well, especially on the internet when so many things like, views and subscription doesn't cost anything. So people can, subscribe to multiple YouTubers. One thing I was thinking about when someone might to do a magazine about photography, we can't lie to ourselves when talking about the most popular topic in photography community, which is gear. How did you avoid this? I wouldn't say like temptation, but the gear is when I look at multiple platforms like YouTube or different websites or Instagram, the gear is something that actually people click and that has traction and is trending and something like that. And I understand that your approach is different, that you wanted to focus more on art, but did you have like side thoughts about, okay, maybe when we write about this, maybe we might get more views or something?
Of course, I had those thoughts, and I know it as a fact. I mean, if I, how should I put it? If I would have created this quality magazine with great photography inside, but position it also as a publication which presents these images, presents this art, but also lets you explore exact insight and tips and technical, like you mentioned, gear, cameras, lenses, how to create this work. And if I would really market this publication as such, great images plus information on gear which supports this work, if I would really position and market this magazine as such, I think we would have 10 times more subscribers.
Oh, really?
I think so. I'm pretty convinced, but I'm not interested in this.
Oh, okay.
I'm interested in people joining and subscribing to frames, which, it's not like that gear is not important. Without gear, I can't make the photo, right? So, people who say gear is not important, I don't agree with this. I need gear to create my photograph, right? So
it was definitely what you wanted rather than what you think people would want to build the magazine around, right?
It was definitely what I wanted, what I wanted frames to be. There is no place for gear. We have one page. So you look through the magazine, you watch the photos and the stories, next to them, and there is a last page in the magazine which is called context. And on this page you can have a look. Michael Kenna, page 9, plastic Holga camera.
Okay.
Page 11, Hasselblad medium format cameras with various lenses. That's
so if someone is interested in this, they can find out what was used to produce.
They can see what was used to be used, but it's never next to the photograph.
Oh yeah,
it's somewhere in the end.
Because it would disturb the experience to enjoy the photograph, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We focus on the image. Each image gets its dedicated page, as you saw, right? We focus on the image and on the emotions, on the stories behind those images.
Okay.
Gear is really, really secondary, right? That's the idea.
When we talk about style of the magazine and how you said it's important, do you think it's more important to keep the one style for the magazine rather than for photography monograph? Because what I actually like about photography monographs, they all look different, and even from different photographers, they produce two books which look, which don't look same, and that's actually something that I like about the project, because sometimes the project can be about something and then produce like a small book or a zine, and then it can be like a proper monograph or something. But when you look at the magazines, the format is same. Is it because you want it to be recognizable for people to say, okay, this is Frames magazine, this is what I can expect?
Yeah, definitely. So it circles back to the, this first phase, which I talked about the concept. Of course, I came up with a clear concept, and even a very specific layout concept, right? Each magazine is constructed and, laid out in the same way, with the same amount of pages. People know what to expect, but at the same time, people can get surprised, because we present in each edition, we print, 6 photographers plus 2 interviews of different genres, different styles, different, formats of their cameras. The common denominator is great photography, great vision, but of course it's something else than a monograph. This is clear. We present six artists in each edition, right? The idea behind it, like really underlying idea, was for somebody who wants to simply enjoy photography, or like maybe support his own photography through looking at others people's work. I believe that when you look at really different kinds of work, you can be a landscape photographer, but if you look at great macro work or at great portraiture on a regular basis, your landscape photography will really improve. This I truly believe, because you can get little bits from everyone who is passionate about something else. And then what's the word? Inject them into your own.
And evolve
this is
your
and this is the idea behind the magazine.
Do you think? Let's talk about the photographers. Do you think personal style is something important, something someone should probably chase? Because what I'm thinking when I look at, especially nowadays in the digital age of the Instagram, when you have the Instagram page and then all the photographs have same kind of style, usually people prefer that. But then I was thinking about if this is not something that limits you in a sense that you then, for example, you are a wonderful, let's say, landscape photographer, and then you see something like on the street or a portrait, or you do a black and white and then you see a nice colors. Does it limit you, or do you think you should be able to keep the style within the project you are working on, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a bit. We touched on this a bit before, right?
Yeah.
So again, I think there's no one definite answer. I think it's very personal because, like I told you, I went through phases where I was telling to myself, you cannot make a color photograph because you are a black and white photographer.
But then you are missing out, right?
So, if I would not have been struggling, it would be everything fine. But if you have to push yourself, it means exactly that you limit yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Why then limit? If you want this color photographed and you're convinced this scene should be photographed in color, then do it. But this is personal because other person will not have this feeling, right? So I think there is no definite answer. Definitely sticking for a while for one project. That's why I really love more and more, of course, the idea of working in projects. Don't define your whole life.
Okay.
Because then the photograph on your coffin will be also black and white. Don't define your whole life. Define projects. Maybe.
Sorry about that. Do you think because a lot of in the history, I think a lot of magazines were maybe more inclined, I don't know, such as Life or other magazines, to publish photography stories and documentary photography. But nowadays it seems that a lot of magazines go to where people are buying stuff and going more towards the, let's say, celebrity photography and other things. And I feel like the documentary photography is kind of not forgotten, but it goes more towards where the money are, like what magazines can publish and sell.
Yeah, certainly applies to many publications, and we know it. What sells, and people have to make their livings and whatever it means, Yeah. But I still believe there is place, for those niche, for projects and genres that are maybe not so popular today. But remember that everything in history also goes in waves, right?
Yeah.
Times of Henri Cartier-Bresson, he was really, the pushing forward the ideas of street photography and so on and so forth. Yeah. Next 2 decades, the street photography was not so popular. He was one of the most, active maybe in this regard. But the next 2 decades were not so great. There was actually more documentary photography. Meaning like really, wars and political documentary photography. And then street photography resurfaced again.
Yeah.
For what reasons, I'm not completely sure, right?
Maybe a lot of people got their hands on cameras because they, got cheaper.
Right. Also, of course, yeah.
So when it became more accessible, more people started to explore, all the genres.
Absolutely, yeah. So there is always so many factors, and we can't predict everything. And yeah. I think everybody, you should just focus and concentrate on what's fulfilling yourself in this very moment or phase, and do it and show it, because this will be your best work anyway.
And for you, it's the magazine now.
For me, my heart now beats strong for the magazine. To be honest, like for the last, you can imagine the amount of work on the magazine. I still photograph, but I was struggling with time for fulfilling my photographic passion. I'm trying now to find the balance and actually again grab the camera myself more often again, and it's difficult, It's
so let's say what are your future plans? Like if we sit here in 5 years, 10 years with the magazine, do you also have plans for the publishing in the future to get maybe into photography monographs or something like that?
Yes, I as a matter of fact, I do. It was already even discussed on the community, in the community of frames. So I am thinking about. I can talk everything about this concept. It's not because it's not even defined yet completely. It's again in this phase when I am, making my notes, analyzing what would be the best approach. But definitely, I'm thinking about a series of frames, photography books, possibly monographs. Actually, it was the initial idea, but it's not yet completely defined. But again, along the same line that the photography, excellent photography belongs on paper. So definitely we are thinking about it. Having said that, we are really, like I mentioned before, just about to release the Frames Photography app. So a digital thing. Yeah, it should be in the stores if everything goes by the end of May. It should be in the app stores. So, and I think it will be unique. This will be also something special.
What is it about?
So let me just
a sneak peek.
Like a sneak peek is it's a comparison sentence. We have, I think, around I don't know the numbers exactly, but 12 million or something like that photos on Instagram every day. On the Frames app, there will be 2.
Okay.
There will be 2 photographs every day for you to enjoy, to go deep on, to read the story, behind it from the photographer, and to possibly connect with the photographer himself in the chat room comments, So completely different experience. Less is more. I think people who are into photography, and this happened through an enormous support, and I would like to thank if anybody from Frames community is watching this broadcast. It happened to the thanks to the enormous support of a crowdfunding campaign, where the members of the Frames community really helped out. That's why this app is coming to life. So this is amazing.
So looking forward to it.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's very, very exciting. Yeah, and in 5-10 years, I have some ideas. Step by step.
Don't you want to share the most wild ones?
Oh, the most wild ones? Well, I would love to have frames to have, at least one physical location in the future.
Okay.
A photo gallery.
Switch to monthly, publication?
I don't think so.
Okay.
This amount of remember we have monthly digital, so every subscriber gets the monthly digital companion. I like the fact that every 3 months you get this book, and this is again the idea. And maybe maybe I'm possibly losing some potential subscribers, but it's not the point. I want those kind of people to gather around Frames who enjoy getting the book every 3 months, having it on the shelf, on the coffee table, wherever they keep it, and get back to those 80 photographs several times and go deeper on them. Then again, every month, okay, cool, I have to go. Now it's next magazine.
Yeah.
Less is more. This is maybe I should change the motto, right? Less is more. Enjoy the photography.
This one is used by a lot of, other people.
Possibly, yeah.
I wanted to also ask you. You are also you are the Frames editor-in-chief, but also the FUJILOVE magazine. Can you tell me maybe something more about that project? Is it yours from the scratch, or is it what is it about? It is my project. It was also from scratch. I created it. This FUJILOVE has been out there for, I would say, 7 years, I think, altogether. At some point, on my photographic journey, I discovered Fujifilm cameras. I'm still using them till this date, and enjoying them and creating all my personal work with Fujifilm cameras. I got so impressed by what they were doing with their cameras, right? That I created a community again. That was back then, 7 years or 8 years ago. I created, Facebook group and a website and a blog and so on and so forth. Standard, typical steps. But at some point, actually, it was somebody from the community itself who put a comment somewhere on Facebook. Would be cool to have a magazine for Fujifilm users. And I said, okay, let's do it. And the rest is history. Yeah, we have a thriving big community of members, subscribers to the magazine. But this is really a completely separate project.
It's Fujifilm oriented. It's it's also about great photography, of course, but there is much more also about the cameras, about the ways people use Fujifilm cameras, about the lenses, and in a way, it's a mix of art and technology in there, Fujifilm specific. Yeah. So, but this is a completely separate entity, so to speak.
Do you even have time for that?
Well, I still have the time. If I wouldn't have time, I would have to, close one of those things but yeah, that's my job. That's my work. That's my life. And I have an understanding wife. Yes.
So as someone who is in this photography business, I could say, can you tell me from your point of view, what does it take to be a successful photographer in terms of, because we see a lot of people on the Instagram taking amazing photographs, right? But not a lot of them hanging in the galleries or making a living with photography. So maybe you could think about it in terms of percentage. Is it like 50% being good in marketing and 50% being a good photograph, or is it like when I'm heading what it takes to be a successful photographer?
I know what you're trying to ask, of course. Again,
because
the
we
answer.
Have people like let's say Peter McKinnon, who is doing it's not like specifically photography, like landscape photography. He's doing like content around photography, right? And then we have people like Steve McCurry, right? He's doing like specifically photography. Both like successful people. Mm-hmm. Some would say, it's not comparable, but both are making living with, photography. So I'm wondering, maybe someone is thinking about what should I do? I would like to, earn money and being a photographer. What do you think about it?
So as you can already sense from our conversation before, I'm a firm believer in following your passion. Yeah. Okay. So Peter McKinnon, I'm pretty sure, I don't know him personally or anything, but I'm pretty sure, he has been doing now for also 10 or 15 years, or I don't know, his YouTube channel, growing it like crazy. He seems to be enjoying it, right? He could not be doing it really for 15 years on this kind of level of energy and engagement and, passion, if it would not be this passion. The same applies to Steve McCurry. So, of course, they are not comparable, or maybe they are comparable in one thing, that Steve McCurry has passion for this. Peter McKinnon has passion for this. Michael Kenner has passion for this. He has been photographing black and white square format images, black and white for 40 years. Right? Without passion, difficult, I think. Or you'll be verging on burnouts every few months, right? So to give it, people ask me, of course, sometimes, what should I do? Where's the way to make? I would like to make also the living and so on. You can find, if you are a good observer of the market, of people's psychology, what people need, or the photography scene, you will pinpoint those trends where possibly doing this or that would help you with making your living. The question is for how long.
If you don't like what you do, right?
If you hate what you do, or you don't find it fun anymore, you will either burn out or you will stop doing it. Yeah. Hopefully the latter is the better solution in the end. There's no answer for this. I think it is.
So I watched a video with Elliot Erwitt, and they asked him what he would recommend for photographers who would like to make living with photography. And he said that nowadays, when everyone wants to be photographer, not everyone, but he said something like that you should rather start with photography as a passion and as it evolves and as you do it for quite some time, you then maybe transform it into something that you can make a living,
Absolutely. You remember what I said before? Do your thing. Do the thing you're passionate about. Do it for a while, and people will come to you.
Yeah.
Because only then you will start creating your best work. And people will not only see your best work, but people will also feel your energy. And this is a contagious combination. Then you have the best chances of making this living and doing the thing you love. What's better, right? So
yeah, because a lot of people, for example, say like, I want to be a photographer, so I'm gonna get into this wedding photography industry. But then, it takes up all your weekends, and if you love wedding photography, I can see this being a good road, because it's paid pretty okay, I guess. Depends where you live,
right.
But you can earn good money with this. But eventually, if you don't like going to weddings, and then you might be kind of like
and also like I said, it can be phases. I did some wedding photography for 4 years, I think. Not extremely much, but I did. I think I had 2 years when I did like 25 weddings a year or something like this. Okay. I did it for 3 years, pretty intensively.
And did you like it?
Yes, then I enjoyed it. But the moment, and okay, you can of course say you have to be in a comfortable situation to drop something, to say no, thank you, I don't do it anymore, right? So
okay.
Of course, at some point I just felt I don't enjoy it anymore so much. That's when I stopped. But I understand, if it's your one income, you have to have always two legs, have two options. Try to have two options of making your income. Try having wedding photography business, but also maybe do landscape workshops or whatever interests you. But try having two things. Not only will keep you in balance, so you can do for half a year this, half a year this. Whereas wedding season you do the weddings, when it's winter you do winter landscape photography, whatever. But you will be healthier, happier, in balance, and you will always have income.
So do what you love and your audience will follow, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you once again for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening to it. You can find this podcast live on YouTube, where you can ask questions in the real time, or find us in your favorite podcast application. Make sure you're subscribed if you want to be notified when I post a new episode. I'm very happy you are tuning in for another episode of Podcast About Photography. Until next time.